Welcome along to everyone. Before we start with the new Milan head coach, I wanted to thank Paolo Fonseca for what he did, for the professional that he is, for the time that he spent here, the utmost of respect for him. As for the reasons behind the dismissal, he didn't manage to have consistency in terms of results, and when you're at Milan, results are fundamental. We decided to fire Paolo after the match. We made a mistake by putting him up in the press conference. I apologize to Paolo and the fans. We understand the fans. We have the utmost respect for them. We're the first to be unhappy with our league position, and we won't be happy until we reach our targets. The Super Cup is one of our goals. We are aiming to win the competition this season, and it will be important for us to do so. The responsibility doesn't only come down to one head coach. The responsibility is shared amongst everyone, and we need to take responsibility. Both in good times and bad, Milan are always prepared as a club for the next step. There are no surprises, and there are no panicked decisions. Everything has been prepared in good times and bad. Now is the time to unveil the new head coach of Milan, 𝐫𝐠𝐢𝐨. He doesn't need any introduction. I think you all know who he is. The reasons why we chose Sergio is because he's a very direct person, he's got a lot of character, he's a winner. He has experience of taking over a club mid-season, and he did a very good job. He was at Porto, he got great results with the club, and he already has very clear ideas in his mind, some targets. He arrived yesterday, immediately wanted the team out there on the training ground to work, and our job now is to give him the best possible chance of success. So I'd like to welcome 𝐫𝐠𝐢𝐨. Okay, let's thank Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We'll start with the questions. We'll begin with Mauro Suma, Milan TV. Thank you, Nicola. Good morning, Zlatan. Welcome along, Gaffer. When you spoke to Milan TV for the first time, we really picked up on your pride of being here as a Milan head coach. How proud are you, and how important will San Siro be? There's a big fan base at San Siro. They'll be important for you, for the team, and for the project that begins today. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Zlatan, for your opening comments. You've put even more responsibility on me. I'm very proud to coach such a top club like Milan. It's a massive club, and I know this club since my playing days, but also as a coach, because I took on Milan in the Champions League as a coach 3 years ago. Some of the players are still at the club. It's a pleasure, it's a source of pride, it's a step forward in my career, both for me and my staff. Fans are the heart and soul of a club. Without supporters, it's very difficult to grow and thrive as a team. We need to respect the values of the club, and we need to keep working very hard to show that we're up to Milan, the team as a whole. Not everyone is here at the moment. I'm here. That's not a good sign. Things didn't necessarily go well. Zlatan was right in saying it doesn't only come down to one person. Several people are to blame. They're all part of the club as a whole, in various areas of the club, that work here on a daily basis in Milanello with the team. And now we need to give it a lot of thought. We don't have a great deal of time to work on the first game that we have on Friday against Juventus, but it is what it is. We won't complain about that. We won't look for excuses. We're here to work, and we're going to try and win things. And we'll definitely produce a very competitive side. Sky. Hi, Gaffer. Welcome along. Yesterday you spoke about hard work and how little time you have. You've also stressed those ideas today. What are you going to be focusing on in the short term? And have you already spoken to your son, 𝐫𝐠𝐢𝐸, who you were up against in your first match in charge? I've got 5 children. I speak to them on a daily basis. Francisco will be an opponent on Friday, and professionally he's an opponent. At home he's my son. That's only normal, just like all fathers and children, I think. As for the first question, I've already said it to the lads. We can change formation, we can play 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 4-3-3, whatever you want. But it all comes down to the team's spirit, their mentality, and that's non-negotiable. That's how you say it in Italian, right? It's non-negotiable. That intensity, that desire, that hunger to come off the pitch at the end of the game knowing that you've given everything to try and win the match. And that's not easy, because I'm a very passionate man. I know you've already seen how many times I've been sent off during my career, because I really experience matches intensely, and I want players to show that same passion and emotion on the pitch, just like the fans. Coming back to that first question, I want to see the players show that passion. So I think we need to do that job. The players need to understand that they need to have that light in their eyes every time they step out there at Milanello. That's something very important. Of course, you need a game plan, organization when it comes to a specific match. That's something else. If we can all have that mentality, all of us in our own individual positions will be stronger as a whole. Hi, Gaffer. Welcome along. I wanted to ask you, a little earlier you said that if you're here, it's because that means that something's not gone well. I'm sure you've watched a number of Milan matches. What is it that didn't work out? Is it a case of mentality, or does it come down to football? It's like the people involved in the team. There's not one factor. There are a number of different things that haven't worked out. I prefer to speak about, some people prefer to speak about tactical organization, other people will talk about fitness levels, and so on and so forth. I'd like to wish Paolo all the best. Paolo had some good times here. There were some performances that I really enjoyed, others less so, but that's part and parcel of being a head coach. You can't think that you're always going to necessarily be consistent. We want to be consistently perfect, but that's not possible, because you come up against opponents that have a lot of quality. There's a different test week in, week out in Serie A. The same goes for the Champions League. So we need to be prepared for that. But I don't really want to get into the details of all of that. That wouldn't be fair towards a very good professional head coach, someone who I've known for many years in the shape of Paolo Fonseca. Roy. Hi, Mr. Welcome back to Milan. We got to know you as a player here in Milan. Now we see you as a coach here. Who is 𝐫𝐠𝐢𝐸𝐸? What differences are there between your past as a player and the coach that sits before us? It's all completely different. It's completely different. When we're players, we think that we understand everything about football. That's not the case. We think about our own little patch of grass, whereas head coaches don't sleep at night. It's very difficult for me to drift off to sleep, because there's a lot of information. I'm sure you understand that because you're working in football, but there's stress to try and figure out all of the various factors here at Milan, the job everyone does, from the kit man to the ground staff, cutting the grass on the pitch, right up until the club president. Everyone's very important. We've got a lot of desire, we the staff, to meet and get to know as many people as possible, to try and find some shortcuts to get ahead of the game, so that we have an understanding of everything and everyone as quickly as possible. Because there's very little time available. On Friday we have the Super Cup semi-final. We need to be very positive and demanding in what we want to see from that game. Mediaset. Hi, Gaffer. Welcome along. Zlatan said a little earlier that the decision to fire the coach was taken after the Roma match. So I'd like to ask you, given that you were hired very quickly, what convinced you? What stimulated you to say yes to Milan? This summer, was there the opportunity to come to Milan, and were you not able to join because of your situation with Porto? No, it wasn't easy leaving Porto. I don't really want to get into that too much. In the meantime, I don't think the timing's the most important thing. As for when Milan spoke to me, whether it was in the summer or not, every week in Portugal, in the press, they were saying that there was a new club interested in me. They're always talking. That's only natural, because news breaks that we can't control. I don't think the timing of Milan's move is particularly important. It was very quick. As you said, I arrived yesterday, I got straight out there on the training ground. There's a lot of work to do. Today's my unveiling, if I didn't do so. But as I said, because of the respect that we have for you guys and for all of the fans, I think we had to have an unveiling, so we decided to do so today. But it's all been very quick. That's what you need to understand. Why did I join Milan? I'm coaching one of the best teams in world football, historically. I couldn't say no, even though there were other situations that I respect a great deal, a number of top clubs, but I immediately chose Milan when I was given the opportunity to come and coach the team. Gazzetta dello Sport. Hi, Gaffer. Among the various things that Paulo Fonseca did, there was a real break between the coach's approach and certain players. He took a hard line, shall we say. We were really struck by that, both the fan base and the media. You're also renowned for being a fairly firm head coach. What will your approach be in general? What will your rapport and relationship be with, like with the players? Will it be more carrot or stick? Depends on the situation. I'm 50 years of age. It's hard for me to change at this stage of my life. I've been coaching for 13 years now. I didn't start yesterday. I've changed the way that I am, They know that they've got someone who's very fair, who's very direct. There'll be 11 players who'll be very happy. They're the starters. Those that are on the bench will be less happy. Those that are at home, I mustn't swear, but they'll be, it's hard. That's what comes down to managing a squad. If you're very direct in the way you communicate, eye to eye with players, you look them in the eye, they give the utmost in training. They might actually be a bit more sad because they're not playing as much. There are always little dynamics within a team that ultimately decide things, but we need to take strength from that. It's like pressure. Oh, there's a lot of pressure, but pressure's part of football. If you're at top clubs, if you don't want pressure, what are you doing there? Pressure's part of the game. Oh, it's a tough time. Okay, there are tough times, but you need to look towards better times, because it's hard to get worse. So we're confident that we're going to do a good job, and as I said to the players, I can speak as much as I like here, I can speak really well here, but ultimately it comes down to results. We'll try and get results too. Ordine, giornale. Welcome along, Sergio Conceição. I wanted to ask you, Milan are moving from Fonseca And when he came in, Zlatan introduced him by saying, I wanted to dominate football, to now 𝐫𝐠𝐢𝐨, who seems to have a different skill set. Do you think at this moment in time, given how little time you have available, no time at all, can you change your tactical approach here at Milan, or at this stage, are you better off pressing ahead and then gradually making tweaks?
Dipendendo un po' dell'ambiente, no, io vado con le mie convinzioni come squadra.
I'm true to my convictions with the team in the way I work. I don't depend on the context here. Technically, tactically, as I said to you earlier on, the formation is not hugely important. It's more about the dynamics and the shape, and we need to make sure that we're always the right way out there on the pitch. The game plan depends on the opposition, but ultimately the foundations, the work we'll be doing will be on our team and the principles of play that my players need to understand. As for dominating proceedings, football's simple, very simple, if you ask me. There's one goal where you need to score goals, and there's another goal where you mustn't concede. As for dominating football, dominating proceedings, ultimately, dominating is your results. If you're talking about ball possession, or tiki-taka. I think tiki-taka is about putting the ball in the back of the net. Corriere dello Sport. Good afternoon, Gaffer. Good morning. Welcome along. As you said earlier on, if you're here, it's because there's been a failure on the sporting side. Zlatan has manned up and taken responsibility. Do you honestly believe this team can make the Champions League next season? You're 8th in the table, and above all, at a time when there's a very difficult context, the fans are protesting the ownership and so on and so forth. Do Milan have the potential to make up ground in the Serie A table? And which players will be available for selection for the Super Cup? Yes, we'll do everything in our power to get there. There's a lot of work to be done. Sure, there are players at this moment in time that aren't available for selection. Important players over the first 6 months of the season. But we need to work with those that are available for selection. We mustn't look for excuses. I've got faith in every player in my squad. And as for those that are available for selection, we'll go to Saudi Arabia and fight to try and win this first match. Of course, as a head coach, you'd much rather have everyone available for selection and not have any injuries, but injuries are part and parcel of football, and we need to look at those that are available. Sport Italia. Good afternoon, Coach. Welcome along. I saw some of your comments a few years ago when you said players are all the same. Do you confirm that particular statement? And have you spoken to Rafael Leão and Theo Hernandez, who ended up on the bench under the previous head coach? What was the first question? Do you think players are all the same, or two top players like Rafael Leão and Theo Hernandez should always start? No, I think players are all the same in terms of how I manage the dressing room. There's no difference as to whether you're 17 or 37 years of age. Depends what they produce day in, day out on the training ground. If they work as professionals up to the most, the maximum, not what they think is their maximum, but another peak, right to the peak of their powers. There's no difference for me, really, between one player and another. In the dressing room, in front of everyone, they know that I'm as demanding with them as I am everyone else. After that, there are some debates on a personal level, those that can come to me individually and speak to me. And of course, the way I speak to Rafael Leão will be different to the way I speak to another kid, because they've got different characters. I like to really get to know all of the players that I have, who their father is, their mother is, the siblings. I like that. Sometimes players have a whole backstory that leads to the way that they behave and how they conduct themselves in the team that might actually justify their background. But I like all of those different facets, but individually, sure, but collectively in the dressing room, in terms of how I manage things, those that deserve to play is based on what they've produced on the training ground, how they've worked. Have you already spoken to them? Yeah, I've spoken to everyone. Tutto sport.
Mister, buongiorno.
Hi, Gaffer.
Io volevo chiederle
I wanted to ask you the following.
Nella gestione globale
In terms
della
of
squadra,
how you manage the squad as a whole,
gestione di Milanello,
managing Milanello day in, day out, what sort of coach will you be? There are some coaches that want to have an eye on every single facet on a daily basis and then speak to Furlani and Zlatan on a daily basis with Moncada as well. Or do you feel you need someone alongside you, so it might be someone that you can speak to on a daily basis? Do you want to work on your own at Milanello, make your decisions, and then speak to the club and the senior management? Or how have you managed things in the past? Everyone has their job to do. We communicate on a daily basis. But I really like to get to know all of the various departments, to speak to the doctors, the physios, what job they do, how they work, whether they come in once a day, twice a day. I think they need to come in twice a day. I'm just giving you some examples. I spoke to a very important nutritionist today. I really like to get to know all of the various departments, but that's my job. But very quickly, there's a lot of information. We're trying to get to know as much as we can as quickly as possible. As for the ownership, I'll speak to them when I need to, when they need to speak to me, or we're here day in, day out, working at Milanello, working towards the same objective in the same direction. We're all pulling in the same direction. And we all want one thing, namely that Milan can finish in the top 4 in the Champions League places, just like the question I got earlier. There's already a title on the line, and we'll see in the Champions League as well. We've got a couple of matches that are important against Girona and Dinamo Zagreb. We'll see where we finish there as well, because we're Milan. Last 2 questions. Hi, Gaffer. Best of luck. Thank you. The January transfer window is also on the way. Have you spoken about that? Does this team need a few new faces? Do you need to act? A generic question on the January transfer window. The first thing I said is that I want to get to know not only the first team, but also Milan Futuro, the under-23 side, and also the kids that are here, the lads that are here. It's not like me to actually necessarily ask for players. I want to get to know the players that have featured predominantly in the last few matches. I've looked at the last several games, but I don't really know the youngsters too well, so I want to get to know with them first and foremost, and I'll speak before then we decide whether we need to act or not. Carlo Pellegatti. Zlatan Ibrahimovic has already mentioned this. I got to know you as a head coach, not as Porto, but as Nantes head coach. You took over Nantes in second bottom, then you took 35 points from 19 games and finished 7th, so you've already come in mid-season. What are the analogies, what are the differences, what are the issues you expect to encounter here, taking over a team mid-season? They're different situations. Okay, it was the same period of the year. We all did a great job there in France, where there was a different squad, the club was different, it was all very different. You mustn't make comparisons. Sure, in terms of the situation, there are similarities, but it's not the same thing. Because the pressure I was speaking about here, but I've got the pressure every day to be better than I was the previous day. I put that pressure on myself. I'm very demanding with myself. I set high standards. And this pressure, this environment, it needs to give us a bit more. It needs to motivate us more, and not the opposite. We mustn't be intimidated by it. You need to take this pressure, see it as responsibility. As Zlatan said, everyone needs to step up, take their responsibility, work very humbly, 100%. We know that we've got a very difficult job ahead, but we're very confident about what's to come. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Happy New Year.